Well, welcome, Sandrine. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to our audience and for me personally to get to learn more about what it is that you do. And I want to make the most of our time together. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you. Knowing how insanely vague that question is, please offer whatever you want. And we got time to unpack it and tell more stories and all kinds of more that we can unfold from there. So, yeah, what's like a good starting point? A little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. Delighted to be here. So, my name is Sandrine, and I'm a nutritional therapist. That's my title. But essentially, what I do is I work with women primarily. I've started working with families too, but women primarily who are experiencing digestive issues, hormonal issues, and women who are perhaps approaching something called the perimenopause, that
Mm.
lovely time where things start to change in a woman's body, and we are wondering what's going on. Am I going mad? Am I losing my mind? Um, I absolutely love, guiding women through that period of their lives. And the reason why I do this, why brought me to nutrition, is my own journey. So I'm sure we can dive into
Yeah,
that in
let's let's go into it. Like what were you experiencing? I'm guessing a lot of the same things you help your clients with, but yeah, tell us like where was your starting point?
Hmm. So my starting point was in terms of my health, how I didn't feel, 100% was in my 30s. And I had terrible digestive issues. That was my main concern. I had IBS, I had cramps that were waking me up at night. And I just didn't feel great. And in your 30s, you should be, enjoying life, right?
Totally. Yes.
And I really wasn't. So I kind of started digging and kind of, obviously went to, my GP, and they said, you've got IBS, just get on with it. It's life. We can't really help you. And I thought, no, life shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be this miserable.
Good call.
So I said to my husband, I'm going to find a little course in nutrition to really understand what's going on in my body so I can maybe help myself. And I went to an open day of a college in London and came back and I'd signed up for a 3-year diploma in nutrition, studying every single weekend for 3 years. And my husband is still with me, by the way.
That's amazing. That's a testament to the marriage. Love that. Yeah.
And my intention wasn't to practice or to become a nutritionist. I just wanted to heal myself. That's all
Yeah.
I was interested. And obviously the first year you learn about the body, the physiology, and the different body systems. And then the second year we start seeing clients. And I thought, wow, this is pretty amazing what we can achieve just by focusing on food and a few supplements, food supplements. Um, but it's only at the end of my diploma and after another year of study that I finally uncovered what was wrong with me. That's how complicated the body is. And I then made, kind of put two and two together and worked out my starting point of when my digestive issues started to go, downhill. And it was because I had been abroad I used to work in the perfume industry. I used to work for a perfume distributor, and one of the fragrance companies took us on a surprise trip to launch a fragrance, and it was in Tunisia in the desert, which was incredible. But it meant that because it was a surprise trip, we did not prepare. You would normally read about a country and what to do, what not to do, what food to eat, what to avoid. And I didn't do any of that. So I ate all the food I was given and drinks and so on, and came back so ill. So ill. And then I kind of recovered, but it's from that point that my health really went downhill, and my digestive issues just got worse and worse and worse as the year passed. So I healed myself, and then at the end of that, I thought I can't keep this as a secret. I've got to help other people in the same situation as me. So that's why I'm here
Oh
today.
my gosh. I love so many things about this story, but I think my favorite so far is that like you were your first client.
Mhm.
Like you are your proof of concept.
Indeed.
You took the journey. And so you've got something to share. And there's a
That's
lot of
right.
people that really want to help the world and make an impact, make a difference, like make their contribution, live their purpose. And like, what if that's all it
Mhm.
is to like do your own inner journey? And then you get to a point where you've got something that like can't be kept a secret, you know? And so tell us about that. Like, what is the secret that you're sharing?
I guess because I went through that journey, I've kind of tried everything.
Mm.
I've tried all the diets, right? I've tried paleo, I've tried being a plant-based, following a plant-based diet. I've tried sugar-free, dairy-free, whatever free, I tried it. I think the only one I haven't tried is keto, actually, which came after my episode of, um, that's a bit more recent. But so it means that I can save people so much time, Googling their symptoms and going, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Because
Mm.
that's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. It's consuming as well. When you have a health issue and you want to get to the bottom of it and you're not getting the support, it's really hard work. So
Yeah.
I can save people so much time and
Yeah.
hard.
And heart, oh, and they're not alone in their journey, which is seriously worth so much just right there. Somebody that can see them and be like, I know about that and I've got you. And yeah, let's take a step forward, you know? So like, what does that process look like? Like when a new client comes to you with like a mystery issue, like what happens? What's next?
So I'm like a little detective, basically, because it's all about listening to the client, listening to their story, listening to their potential starting point, what could have triggered this digestive issues. And digestive and hormonal issues kind of, work hand in hand. If you address digestive issues, your hormonal balance will improve and vice versa. But yeah, with digestion, it is about listening to the client about their, what happened to them, basically. And sometimes they can't remember. So we start the conversation, we'll go through quite an in-depth, consultation. I ask lots of questions about all the different body systems, and we talk about their health history, we talk about their family, if they have issues, maybe digestive issues that could be passed on, through
Mhm.
generations. All of these things are little clues for us, um, and then it's about, helping the person. I mean, they will have one key thing that they either want to feel a special way or they want to get rid of a symptom, or that there is one big thing usually that we focus on to make it achievable, and again, it's a journey. So it's helping that person get to where they want to get to and
Yeah.
following these little steps, you know. Um, and very often, the first step that I do now, before the healing, is actually replenishing the body because there's so many people are deficient, vitamins and minerals. That it kind of makes sense why their body is not working fully because they're missing, some fuel in the
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah. Key ingredients.
Exactly. So that would be the first step, is to identify what they're potentially missing, what they're not eating enough of, because they don't like it, or because they don't have the time, or there's all these different reasons why people don't eat enough food.
Mm.
Um, And then we look at actually what is going on. You know, is there a particular issue, a particular area that we need to focus on? Is it the digestion? Is it bacteria that are causing the issue? And depending what it is, we may go down the testing route to actually get some facts. So we're not guessing, we're actually addressing, you know, specific issues. And then we use food and we use supplements to heal the gut. Yeah.
So you have them eat certain things and then just kind of feel how they feel. Like, do you feel different now? Is that like the test that we're running is you feel better?
Mm. There are specific foods that tend to exacerbate digestive symptoms.
Like what?
So, for example, you know, a lot of people talk about gluten. You know, for some people, that could be causing reactions. What I, you know, with experience, what I realize is quite often it's not the gluten itself, it's the added ingredients in those products, you know, in those baked goods, or, you know, that's what people react to. Dairy is another one, and specifically milk. You know, cheese might not be a problem, hard cheese, but dairy can cause issues as well. So we take those out for a really short time just to see if things improve just by doing that. And for some people, it's enough. So it gives us a chance to then heal the gut, and then we're introducing those foods.
Hmm.
For others, it can be a little bit more complicated, and we need to
Yeah.
remove things
Yeah.
before healing.
I'm so curious about like what you mentioned when you did your degree and you like first learned about the different body systems. Okay, so pretend like I'm a kindergartner because on this subject I basically am. And like walk me through the body systems and like what a beginner would need to know about like what is that system for? So when it's not working properly, like here's the issue, like
Mhm.
here's the imbalance. Is that answerable?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Oh,
I'll
okay.
obviously focus on the digestive system because of, you know, we will be here a long
Okay.
time if we talk about all the body system. But
Yeah.
um, with the digestion, you know, which is, we don't learn this at school. We should really, or maybe we do and I've forgotten. But you know, when we eat food, you know, the food goes, well, first we start by chewing our food. This is how we start the digestive process. And that's basically telling our stomach that food is coming down. So the stomach then produces acid to break down the food that's coming down as we eat. And a lot of people don't have enough acid in their stomach because perhaps they're stressed or there's various reasons why we don't produce enough acid. And so that's one area that we can focus on in terms of supporting a person. Then the food travels down to the small intestine, and that's where we have various colonies of bacteria that are breaking down the food and absorbing nutrients from food. And sometimes we have there's a mix of good and bad bacteria, and sometimes the bad bacteria take over, and that causes gas and bloating, and that's when people feel really uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And then we can have issues further down. So we then have the colon. Well, again, you know, food is broken down even further, and then whatever we don't need then leaves the body or should leave the body. And when it doesn't, that's when we can have problems. You know, when people suffer
Mm.
from, say, constipation or things like that. And then another body system that very much linked to the digestion is the liver, because the liver filters all the toxins from our body, and if the liver is again congested, then that can sort of cause issues going back up the system. So when someone says to me, "Oh, I'm finding it really difficult to digest fat," for example, for me that's a clue that their liver potentially needs a bit of support, because the liver produces something called bile that basically helps us break down fat. And if that's not happening, then that's when we find it really hard to digest fat, and that makes us feel a bit nauseous, and it does affect our digestive system. So these are like two systems working very closely together. Does
Oh
that make
my,
sense?
you're yes, and I can't believe like all of this is happening inside me and I know nothing about it. Like I am such a kindergartner on this topic. So thank you for like breaking it down. What's like another example of like a system in the body that's doing
Um,
stuff?
a fascinating system is the
Ooh.
brain because so my daughter, she's 8, and she was diagnosed recently with autism and ADHD. And I've been looking into the brain area for quite a while to help her support. She basically suffers from very high, high level of anxiety. And being a nutritionist, I've been thinking, what can I do to help her? I really want to help her. And she also had sleep issues. And so I've kind of dived into this area through genetics. So I do genetic testing for my clients, which only related to nutrition. So it's looking at genes that potentially impact the way we absorb nutrients from our foods. Okay. And with this genetic test, you can see how your body actually produces different neurotransmitters. So things like serotonin, our happy hormone. You know about that
Hmm.
one?
Hmm.
um, it basically, we need protein to make serotonin. And then serotonin is then converted into melatonin, the sleep hormone. And my daughter's gene between serotonin and melatonin is switched off. So for me, that was like,
So what does that,
okay,
what's the implication if that gene is switched off for her? Then
she
that
can't
means what?
sleep. She can't sleep. She finds it
Because,
really, really hard to fall asleep because she's not producing melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. And but then this report shows you how you can compensate and really support the body. So we have done that, and she's sleeping better. She's still finding it hard to fall asleep, and that's the ADHD, the brain always being active.
mm,
And that's the dopamine, which is another neurotransmitter. And then you have a third one called GABA, which is the relaxing neurotransmitter. And when you look at all of this and you can see how you can influence this with food, it's mind blowing. Like literally
like
mind blowing.
literally mind blowing. Oh my gosh. Again, like I've said for years that there's a whole universe inside each one of us. And this conversation is just like really deepening that belief that I already had come to that like our bodies are a miracle. The
They
way
truly are.
all these systems that are working together or not to produce our physical lived reality, like so influential, it sounds like, and based on what food we eat or what genes we have on or off. And how many people are sitting around studying themselves like this versus like, I have some stomach issues, so I took some Pepto and some Imodium and I'm good to go, like not really. Not not so much. That's more like the Band-Aid on the bullet wound kind of thing versus like getting to the bottom of it. I would love to hear like so like you shared about your daughter and changing up her nutrition to help her basically eat foods that would help her produce melatonin that she's not able to eat or not able to produce on her own. What are some other like transformations, like health transformations or life quality transformations that you've seen? And like, what was the issue and what was the remedy and how did it affect them?
Hmm. I think I do meet a lot of women who are suffering from low energy. They're just tired all the time.
Mm,
And it's so common, right? We've got so much on, there's family to look after and parents sometimes and, jobs and so on. And it's kind of really easy to forget to eat
mm,
sometimes. So I actually get clients who come to see me, and the first advice I tend to share is to start eating a bit more. Um, and once you give your body what it needs, it responds. it kind of
Mm,
goes, hey, I'm happy again. I can, feel alive because I'm getting these nutrients. We're not
mhm,
getting them from anywhere else. It's
mm,
from our food. That's
yeah.
it. Um, so that then will link up with hormone health. So there again, there's so many women that suffer from hormonal issues, period pains, and we grow up thinking that it's a normal thing to have period pains every single month. And some women have to rely on painkillers, again, every single month. And when actually it's the body telling us that something is off balance, something is not quite right. And when you start addressing it, these things disappear. These pains just disappear. So for me, I've seen it so many times. Um, yeah, I just want everyone to know that period
Yeah.
pains are not normal.
Can we talk about that? Because I'm 20 years plus into my period cycle, and every month the first day is really bad, the second day is kind of bad, and then it's over. Like as far as my cramps and my pains, my
Yeah.
low energy, like just bottoming out, fatigue, like that's just my experience. And I thought, like, okay, well, that's everybody has cramps on their period. Like you're telling me this isn't true.
Well, a lot of people do, so
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that we've just accepted the fact that it's a normal thing to experience when actually it isn't. We shouldn't be experiencing any pain. I mean, it's a normal um, you know, step, in a woman's life to have cycle every month. It's part of who we are. That's
Hmm.
how our body works, right?
Hmm.
But some women will be experiencing more discomfort than others. And when you do address it, when you ask yourself, actually, where does this come from? Why is this happening? Is this because, we've got different hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and they kind of dance in the body throughout the cycle. And sometimes one is too high and sometimes one is too low. And when you start readdressing that, the pain goes away. Yeah, that's how it should be, pain free.
Again, I feel like you're changing my life right now because I've never even had the intention of like, let me figure out how to not be like just in pain for 2 days a month every month. Like,
Ah,
never even tried to feel better. And like, let's
yeah.
just pause on that for a second because that reminds me of a lot of things in my life that I suffered with. Like, there's like also a story from my aunt coming through of like, she had like open heart surgery. So they like used the spreaders and like moved her ribs and like did her surgery and she survived and wonderful. After her surgery, there was like a pinching pain like around one of her side, like in her back. And she lived with that pinching pain that was sometimes like so bad that she couldn't breathe. She lived with it for 2 years. And then somebody, I don't even remember this part, but like somebody at some point was like, have you tried a chiropractor? Like, have you tried like exploring it that way? Because the doctor, like the GP, was like, here's some pain meds and like it'll go
Hmm.
away. And so then
Hmm.
eventually, like 2 years later, she goes to the chiropractor. She was in there like 10 minutes and it was gone.
Oh
Like,
my word.
so like, and the moral of the story was like, why did I live with that for 2 years? But like, here I am confessing that like I've been on my period every month since I was 14-ish and
Yeah,
22
because
years.
we don't know.
So like, I just didn't know
We
that.
don't. Yeah, yeah. We don't know what we don't know, right?
Mm, wow,
So,
I guess so. Yeah.
mm,
Man. So
yeah,
like where would you even start with like figuring out how to make your period less painful? Like what's the question or questions?
yeah. So it's back to um, trying to, understand if there are any deficiencies because we need specific nutrients to produce our hormones. And then there's different processes in the body whereby the body will use the hormones and they do their jobs. And then we need to excrete the excess. And it's when that is not happening, that can then manifest into various symptoms.
Mm.
And one organ that is very important for hormone health is the liver.
When you said we need
So
to excrete the rest, like I was like, oh, she's about to bring the liver back into this. So you're saying
indeed,
like maybe the liver is like a little bit, how did you put it? Not backed up, but like
congested, yeah, yeah,
congested liver.
yes,
Again, like
yeah,
never
yeah.
even had that thought before. So thank you for that. Okay.
And and again, if you find it hard to go to the bathroom, if you're constipated, then all these things are not going to come out of the body and they have to go elsewhere. So, toxins then starts to travel up, and sometimes it can affect your head, giving you headaches or migraines. It can affect your skin, getting spots on the skin. That's a clue that your body is not detoxifying by itself through the normal channels.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so it's key nutrients, specific food to support, again, the production of hormones, supporting the excretion of excess. These are the key things, really. It's kind of the same principle, really, for a lot of conditions, is
Yeah.
making sure that we've got what we need and making sure that we release what we don't need.
Yeah. You make it sound so simple. I love that. I'm sure it's not, but you do a good job of breaking it down simply for me. I appreciate that. Um, so let's switch gears a little bit and like, go into mid 40s, go into like this feminine cycle as it's approaching its end. And that is like this chapter of perimenopause. And I am also a kindergartner on this subject. So let's start with like what is perimenopause and like how is it different than menopause and like how do these two stages go? Like what is that
Mm.
happening in the body?
I'm so glad we're talking about this and as you are in your 30s, because I will just share one little thing first, is that one sort of key fact I learned while I was studying nutrition. I attended a conference with a famous nutritional therapist from the UK, and the conference was on menopause. And I thought, it's not for me yet. That's what came through my mind at
Yeah.
first. And then I thought, no, I'm going to attend because I need to learn about this. I need to know about this. And actually, I've learned one thing that's changed my practice, really. And it's the fact that if you experience difficult periods in your 20s and 30s and don't address those issues, then you're more likely to suffer in your 40s and 50s as you go through perimenopause and menopause. I
Wait.
mean, this was huge for me.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, it makes sense. If you've got a hormone imbalance in your 20s and 30s, why would it suddenly disappear? Sometimes things get better when women have children because, hormones are, doing different jobs and sometimes things kind of settle, but sometimes it comes back even worse. So
Mm.
once you know that, then you can listen to the signs. So now let's go into, the two phases. So
Mhm.
perimenopause is that time when some women may really experience terrible symptoms. It really affects them. So it could be, again, headaches, migraines. It could be digestive issues. It could be poor sleep, or these kind of things. And it will be very, very different for each individuals that you meet. Very, very different. And for some women, they will know, they will have no clue that this is what's happening. The
Mm.
only clue would be when you track your cycle. And then
Yeah.
you may notice that maybe you'd been a 28-day type girl for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden your cycle gets longer or shorter, or, and that's a clue that things are changing. And then menopause, the official term, is basically when you've had no cycles for 12 months. So at the end of that month's number 12, if you've had no period, you're officially menopausal. Before that, it's perimenopause. It's that transition into menopause.
And is
Does
it
that make
possible
sense?
to have a period like once you're menopausal, like just because it's been 12 months, does that mean it's over? Or is there like another one like hiding in there somewhere?
You could have the odd one, but then you're not officially menopausal.
So you
So
like
like
you go
someone,
back?
so you kind of, it's the process is taking place. But for example, I've heard many ladies saying, "Oh, I didn't have any periods for 10 months." And you're like, "That's it, 2 more months," and then a
Yeah.
period turns out, right? So yeah, so it can happen. But usually once you've had 12 months of no periods, usually that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So how
But
does,
it does.
oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to say it's not something to be scared of. Like, I think we talk about menopause as this
Cliff.
little monster, right? We're
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah. It's all
we,
downhill after that.
yeah, like, my mother never talked about menopause. I just know about hot flushes. That's all I know about,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but actually we should be talking about it because if you do have hot flushes and you are with friends or work colleagues or so what, they need to know that you need to escape for 5 minutes and get
Yeah.
um, and it's not an illness, it's just a natural phase in a woman's life.
Yeah.
And the more we can support our body, the less symptoms we'll have.
Yeah.
And the earlier you start, the better as well.
Yeah. I love this. Like you said, like, I mean, I'm in my 30s. I've been tracking my cycle for like a year, maybe a little bit longer than that. And I feel like it has been like a whole new level of like getting to know myself. Like, for example, before I started tracking my cycle, I had a belief, had a story about myself that like I'm so inconsistent, it's like not even funny. Like I can't stay the same. Like I just keep flying off in all these different directions. But when I started tracking my cycle, I'm like, no, this version of me today is the same as 4 weeks ago. Like similar at least. Like this is like the high point of my cycle. This is the low point of my cycle. And like when I zoom out to a 28-day rotation, there's actually a lot of consistency where I used to
Hmm.
feel like, I mean, totally like a victim of my body, a victim of my emotions, especially, and like how wild and crazy they are. But as I tracked my cycle, I saw like it really does follow that pattern. So like when I have it on my calendar, that like there it is, like there's the end and the beginning mark right there, and I just know it's going to be like okay, and then we go back up and then we're going to go down and then we go back, and it's just regular. And it like took all
Hmm.
this like self-judgment and just like self-criticism of why can't you be consistent? Well, I am. You just need a bigger view. I'm not the same every
Yeah.
day, but like month after month, there is a cycle, a literal cycle. I wonder, like, because let's say I'm like a second grader on this topic. Okay. Like, I know a little bit more than the other ones we talked about, but I wonder, like, if you would take us through the cycle, like the
Hmm.
feminine
Yeah.
cycle and like the stages. And I'm becoming more and more aware of like just how affected my body is at each point
Mm.
of the process. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear like
Mm.
wherever you is the starting point. Like, is that when you start bleeding, or is it like when you ovulate, or like, yeah, talk us through it.
Yeah. So the starting point is exactly that when you start bleeding. So that's
Okay.
day one,
Okay.
called 28 day cycle. And let's say that lasts, we'll say a week just for the sake of it. It could be 5 days, but that first week is, the first step. And then week two is when estrogen starts to rise and progesterone is quite low. So these are the two main hormones that kind of, I call it a dance because that's kind of what they do.
Sure.
And Week 2, so estrogen starts to climb, and then day 14, again, roughly, that's a typical 28-day cycle. Day 14 will be ovulation time,
Hmm.
so that's when an egg is released from the follicle. And then if there is pregnancy, I mean, after that point, after day 14, estrogen starts to drop. And then if there's pregnancy, then progesterone starts to rise. And that would maintain, this hormone would maintain pregnancy. That's the role of progesterone. And what I'm finding is that there's a lot of women who experience discomfort either around ovulation time. Okay, you can actually feel it, you know, or just before the next bleeding window. That's the two sort of key point where I find, women having discomfort. And
Hmm.
also what I'm noticing is that at the end of the cycle, so when progesterone should be high, progesterone has a calming effect. So if someone is feeling a little bit anxious before their cycle starts again, then that's a sign that progesterone might be too low.
Mm.
But yeah, basically that's kind of how it works. And also another thing interesting to know is estrogen. When estrogen is fluctuating, sometimes we can have too much estrogen, and that would give us specific symptoms as well, like bloating and painful breasts and things like that. These are typical signs of high estrogen.
Mm.
Um, and that's not only because of the hormones that are kind of fluctuating in the body, we also are surrounded by, chemicals and plastic, and that can imitate our estrogen. So when we consume food, for example, that's been in a plastic container, we can ingest very, very small particle of that plastic, especially if it's been heated. I know that's really scary, right? But actually, everybody has some level of plastic in their body, and
Horrifying.
that
Okay.
imitates estrogen, and it kind of stops the receptors in our body receiving the real estrogen in our body. So our proper estrogen is circulating and then causing issues because it doesn't know where to go because it hasn't got any kind of free receptors. So that's another thing to think about when you are trying to, regulate your hormones. But
Is
yeah, so on off
plastic
these.
like
Huh?
don't use plastic is
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is very difficult because it's
Yeah.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the one advice I would give you for today with regards to that is to never heat up food in plastic containers, in the microwave or
Yeah.
in the oven.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
always decant into a ceramic dish or bowl, or then put a plate on it and put it in the microwave. But people are so used to going clack 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 in the microwave, right?
There you go. Easy peasy. Making you sick. Okay, good. Good to know because yeah, I doubt I'll ever do that again now that I understand this. Okay, so thank you for changing my life today. Um, okay, here's my question because I am just coming out. I'm like maybe at like day 17, day 18, okay, in my cycle. And so I'm just coming out of ovulation. What is the chemistry that happens during ovulation that has like the effect on like libido and sex drive? Because I'm assuming it's like a mixture of you ovulated. And so now here's the chemistry to like make you receptive to insemination, I guess. Like, what is peaking at ovulation? Because it has quite the effect.
Yeah, I don't actually know if
Hmm.
which hormones is related to that
Yeah.
specifically.
Okay.
Uh, Libido. Yeah, I've never really looked into that specifically. Obviously, there's another hormone called testosterone, which is,
I was going to ask about
female
that too. Yeah.
hormone as well. But we don't focus it on it so much because if it's imbalanced, it doesn't cause any issues. But I know that menopausal ladies who have low estrogen do experience low libido, and sometimes when they recommended HRT, which is estrogen and progesterone, but it can also get given testosterone that boosts their libido. So I wonder
Mm.
if the link is there with
Yeah.
testosterone, but to be completely honest, I don't know.
Okay.
Um, really interesting one to look into, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Fascinating.
Please. Maybe we could talk about that some other time. Um, because that's another piece of like perimenopause and menopause is like, like you said, like all I know about it is hot flashes and women lose their sex drive. And is that true? Like, or is it like period pains where like it happens to a lot of people, so that's correct, but it doesn't have to be like that?
Hmm. It's the same with menopause. It's absolutely the same. It's,
Mm.
you know,
Comforting.
if your body's in balance before you get through that phase, then there's no reason why, the thing is so many things affect symptoms, menopausal symptoms. And what I've noticed is anybody who is very in tune with their body, who are, doing a lot of work to manage their stress levels, I think that's probably the number one cause of, or let's say, what exacerbates symptoms.
Yeah.
Stress is
Yeah.
number one on that list. So anyone who's doing some sort of, relaxation, is be it yoga, be it, sound baths, just anything to help you fully, connect with your body so that you know what it needs, and you can give it what it needs. These people tend to sail through menopause.
Mm.
Uh, fitness instructors, not necessarily the hardcore fitness, because actually doing too much exercise can exacerbate things,
Mm.
but more kind of gentle exercise, relaxing activities definitely help with
Mm.
symptoms because all the hormones are connected, or they work together in synergy. And cortisol, our stress hormones, is always at the top of the priority list when it comes to like pecking order. So, and our sex hormones are right at the bottom. I mean, if you're going to get run over by a bus,
It doesn't matter if you're procreating. Totally. Survival
exactly,
first and
we just
foremost.
need to get out and stay
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
So, I describe the stress hormone like an ambulance that kind of get everyone out of the way and go straight to, where it needs to be. Um, so yeah, it's fascinating how it's
I
all interconnected.
Yeah, I'm loving this part about cortisol and stress being like it it kills people, you know? Like I believe I it's just the most unhealthy
It,
thing.
it,
Like it's
it
one of the
definitely,
worst addictions on the planet
mm,
is like being addicted to cortisol.
mm,
Because I
yeah,
think why I say that as far as it's one of the worst is because it comes wrapped in a tidy little package of self-conditioning, like, look how good I'm doing. So you're also being rewarded for being addicted to your stress.
mm,
I have a lot of feelings
yeah.
on this topic. So,
It
yeah,
it's a big topic. It is
yeah,
a big topic because it's cool to be busy.
right. Hustle culture, grind on the grind, and all the things, and like constantly going and producing and whatever. And like that's the main thing I think that I've taken away from tracking my cycle is that if I rest like the few days before, like the last few days, I guess, of my cycle, and then like the first few days of my cycle, the rest of the month, like I am on it, like doing all the things, but I need those like 6 or 7 days to just like I have
Yeah.
it on my calendar where like I don't schedule stuff during that week. I schedule as little as possible. I go down to the bare minimum and I mostly go hang out in my bed with some snacks. I don't know. Like it's like changed my life to
Hmm.
disconnect from the idea that like you've got to be producing every single day. Like the planet goes through winter and
Yep.
women go through winter every month. We go back in and then we come back out and then we go back in and then we come back out. Is that like, is this another story that I have or is that real?
No, it's definitely real.
That's
It's
real.
in
Okay.
fact, to be able to work around your cycle is just fantastic. And I
Yeah.
think you'll find that lots of conversations around this topic at the
Yeah.
moment. Um, if you work in an office, with men, it's not the kind of thing that you'd be able to put in place, right? It's, oh,
Yeah.
this week, I don't know, going to work from home or something, but it would be an ideal way of being, basically, be
Mm.
productive when you feel like you're being productive and then rest when it's time to rest. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Like replenishing our
mm,
our soil, you
mm,
know? And
mm,
this actually is a fun point about rest that I'm a big fan of rest. I think about it a lot. I practice it as well as I can. But, there's like a cultural stigma around rest that says like you earn it by like
yeah.
I did all these things, so now I get to rest
Mm,
versus like where I'm at this point, like I have completely flip-flopped that as far as no, I'm resting because I need to go do a bunch of stuff.
mm,
And when I'm done doing that stuff, I'm going to rest so that I can go do some more stuff. So, like,
mhm.
it's at the beginning, it's a prerequisite. It's not a reward that happens at the end for like achieving a certain outcome. That if you didn't achieve the outcome, then you don't get to rest yet.
Mm.
Like, no, put it before, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest here. I'm definitely not the best at resting,
It's hard.
and it's so hard. It really
Yeah.
is because you grow up, looking at your parents and how they do it, and well, I still have my mum, but she never used to rest.
Same.
She was always on the go, and I was like her for a long time until I met my husband, who kind of almost taught me how to relax.
Beautiful. Oh, yeah. That's
um,
wonderful.
and not feel guilty, because that's the other thing, right?
That's what you're up against is the guilt trip
Yeah.
of your own inner voice, which has been conditioned by everyone that you grew up around. So, like, resting at the beginning is like sitting in the fire and letting your conditioned beliefs burn, and it hurts. It's not
It
comfortable.
does.
But, dude, if you can get through that part into like rest being your sanctuary, like rest getting to be the prerequisite, like again, like it's a total game changer.
It just gives you, I mean, it gives you so much clarity. It just, I've like I said, I'm a work in progress.
Yeah.
I am a lot better than I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to be the one running around all day long, and
Yeah.
even difficult to sit down in the evening to just, because I knew there were dishes that need to be washed or,
All
whatever.
the things. Yeah.
But once you understand how beneficial it is for the body to rest even a little bit,
Hmm.
and like you said, dropping the guilt,
Hmm.
um, it's incredible. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. It is like such a deconditioning journey. And at that level, I think most health ends up being some sort of a deconditioning journey. Like we're from small children, like we are brainwashed into relating to our body as something that you drag around that's like essentially in your way and not as like a sacred vehicle for you to get to be on this planet, like, and I like that's where I would say like I am a total work in progress on that front. Like I still feed my body all kinds of things that I'm sure it doesn't need, but and probably not enough of what it does need, but even just having the intention of like feeling my body and like what is my lived experience. And I feel like that's where my journey into all of this started was more like this commitment to I care about how I feel. Like it matters to me how I feel. And so even if I don't know what to do about how I feel, I still care that I'm fatigued or I'm manic or I have a high sex drive or I have no sex drive or like how do I feel? Just even to start gathering that information and paying attention to this
That's
vehicle that we're friggin' riding in all the time, 24/7. And yet, for most of my life so far, like I didn't give it even a thought, something so important.
so, so crazy. And you've said it, it's just paying attention. And for most, it's not something we do, right? It's you are going 100 miles an hour, get up in the morning and go, 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 go. And when I meet clients in my clinic and I say to them, do you ever feel bloated? And they're like, I don't know. I
Right.
don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I was pretty wrapped up
Yeah.
in the renovation and my husband's new job and like all the things that like have your attention that aren't you. This is where I feel like this topic and owning authenticity like really merge as far as like it kind of all begins with like you've got to look at like what's actually going on inside of you with yourself. And that is one of the hardest shifts we humans do is to stop looking out and start looking in, and we're all a work in progress.
Indeed.
Yeah. What what like bow would you like to put on our conversation? Like maybe what's something that you wish I would have asked you about or like something you would have gotten to say?
Mm. Probably, we talked a lot about feeding yourself, nourishing your body, and listening to your body, listening to the signs, and then along with that, we kind of moved on to avoiding plastic, and because that can affect hormones and or any chemicals, in fact, will affect our hormones, and I guess the last point is just around because that's my passion. It's food, and it's just again, it's going back to basics, and when you are consuming something, asking yourself, is this real food?
Mm,
Has it been made by someone? Has it got a long list of ingredients, or does it just come straight from the earth?
yeah.
And when you start asking yourself those questions, then you start making decisions that are really, really beneficial for the body.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we can't eat anything that's packaged, but the way I see things is that we have everyday food and then we have sometimes food.
Oh,
And
yeah.
these sometimes food could be anything you like, you enjoy, makes you happy.
Yeah.
But
But
that's what I would
everyday food. Oh, I like that. I like that because, like, I have an inner rebel that is real fierce, and she doesn't do with any kind of ultimatums of like black and white limitation. You can't have that. Like, she just shows me that, like, you can't tell me what to do. But I like that, like, there's what you eat most of the time, and then
yeah,
there's your indulgences, like, nothing
yeah,
wrong with that.
exactly, exactly. If
Um,
it's your mum's birthday, then of course you're gonna have some cake.
sure.
I would
No
do too.
problem. No problem. Right. If you eat it like once every great while, you would probably also have a better chance of being able to observe the effect that a piece of cake
Mm,
has on you. Like I stopped eating
absolutely.
sugar there for a long time and then got real crazy and had like three little Reese's peanut butter cups like right in a row. I thought I was going to be sick. Like it made me hot, it made me sweaty, I felt nauseous, like it was just like an attack on my system within about 15 minutes. So
Wow. Yes.
like and before that, dude, I've eaten thousands of Reese's peanut butter cups and never blinked an eye, okay? But it needed that little bit of space of even being able to feel like what's the effect of this? I need
Ah,
like a baseline to be able to
yeah.
judge the spike. So
Yeah.
yeah, it it's on all
Amazing.
fronts. Oh, thank you so much. This was so good. So informative. Thank you. If
You're very
people
welcome.
want to Thank you. If people want to dive more into your world and your work, where can they go? And we'll put some links in the description, whatever you guide us to. But yeah, where should people find you?
So I have a website called savoir-faire with a Y .co.uk. And I also have a Facebook group called Your Hormone Harmony, which is all about, helping women address PMS type symptoms and perimenopause and menopause symptoms naturally. So, if someone is listening and they are finding themselves struggling and not knowing what to do next when it
Yeah.
comes to health, then that's a really nice supportive group where I
Mm.
share lots and lots of inspiration, some recipes, we share our journeys and things like that. So that's really good. So Hormone Harmony on Facebook. And then I'm on social media. It's, Instagram, savoir-faire_nutrition, and it's savoir-faire on Facebook as well. So yeah, you can come and find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I look forward to getting to chat with you more in the future. And I hope that everyone had a moment of relief in this conversation of the common humanity that we are all experiencing, the normalcy and the not so normal inspiration for reaching for feeling even better inside your body. There was just so much to enjoy about this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.